two main ways to build wealth. One is real estate. The other is
students whose startups fail. Could it be because they're too smart? Does AI still have opportunities?
it has passed the era of the spray and pray type of opportunities.
In this world, there are very few times when everyone or all commerce can participate.
AI and crypto actually share something in common. They both remove middlemen, giving ordinary people continued wealth-building potential.
This future has arrived. The completely digital era's financial system is here. Once you raise enough from very top-tier resources, you can't just let the company die. Can you get a shot of this? Great figure. Okay, let's get back to it.
That church is the birthplace of the entire Stanford campus. Stanford was founded by a railroad tycoon. In the 1870s, it was popular to study in Europe. His son went to study in Europe and unfortunately passed away from illness while abroad. They were left with no heir. They decided to use their son's name to establish a university, Stanford University.
This chapel exists because of his son's tragic passing. To give more students, more children a better space to grow, to benefit the world.
Actually, he passed away relatively early. The tycoon, his widow, helped manage all of Stanford's affairs. In the 1940s and 1950s, they helped alumni start companies. Back when Silicon Valley didn't exist yet, it became what was then the embryonic form of Silicon Valley. There were also two Stanford alumni back then, namely Hewlett and Packard. Each donated a building. This building over here is called Moore. He's the inventor of Moore's Law. This is him, and I think his wife Gordon and Betty Moore.
Every building has a naming donor?
Not every single one, but quite a few do. And this school is the School of Energy and Environmental Engineering. The donor of this building is Jerry Yang. He's now also a Stanford board member. There's also that building over there, Jensen Huang Building. It's mainly the Management and Engineering School building. It also has a media auditorium inside, and some of Stanford's engineering school, some startups memorabilia from when they first got started.
Do they have any special support programs for Stanford students?
It's more at the company level. NVIDIA is now probably the largest company in the world. It actually collaborates with Stanford quite a lot. There are people teaching at Stanford every day. Naturally, they get to know Stanford students. And when they find someone impressive, high potential students, naturally end up finding jobs at NVIDIA. The school also has a lot of these. Many students are starting companies. There are so many various offline events where they can invite big companies like NVIDIA, Meta, Facebook, Google, people from various departments sharing different topics. And there are also hackathons where some early stage projects emerge.
Will what you want to build be influenced by these people? What's your core purpose?
The original intention behind founding this is to help these Stanford students and alumni build startups in Web3. It was founded in 2021 at Stanford. A lot of people were quite interested in this. But the relevant entrepreneurship education, specifically in the crypto space, was not very extensive. There's a lot here. There are entrepreneurship courses, but they're quite general. Teach you some methodologies, how to start a company covering all kinds of industries. And some industry-specific ones, like aerospace, biomedical, and so on, and related fields. But for crypto specifically, there was no dedicated entrepreneurship program. And crypto itself has very strong professional characteristics. It affects its entire logic, and the overall direction is different. So the original intention of my founding, this was more about inviting people from within the industry, from a more creative native perspective, to mentor these entrepreneurs.
How long have you been doing this? How many cohorts, and who have you invited?
The Accelerator has run about 8 cohorts, and there's also a course at Stanford. And now that crypto has gone mainstream, especially in finance, I've invited many people who are not traditional Web3. For example, for this cohort, I invited a YC partner, and also a regulator, the chair responsible for crypto financial regulation, who had just left to join MoonPay, and also a senior person from Robinhood, vice president, and so on. Now it's more about non-traditional backgrounds. While in the past, I invited some traditional Web3 people like Vitalik.
If you invite people like YC and other more traditional ones to share about crypto native people have their own idealism. Do you feel the gap is still very large, or have they already thought deeply about this too?
For the non-Web3 ones, when I invite these people, like the YC partner, for example, he previously worked at Coinbase, He had his own startup, so he's relatively familiar with crypto native culture. Then we have someone from Nubank who has some crypto experience, also familiar enough with crypto native culture, joining one of these companies. Not in the traditional crypto sense, that's one aspect. And then some of these companies, like Robinhood, approach it more from a financial angle to engage with crypto and treat it as a financial asset to expand their business.
In recent years, the big names' stance on crypto has been quite positive, but it seems mainly in exploration mode. Do you feel the current stage is still exploratory, or are they already rushing in?
Major enterprises like this, they're actually already doing a lot of things, but many people might not feel it. You might just hear Wall Street is doing something or have no idea what's happening. But internally on Wall Street, there are definitely all kinds of various things happening.
Can you share some landmark examples that make us go, wow, this positioning really matters and will affect our future?
For example, I think what Robinhood is doing, some of the things they're trying, when they were in France at ETHCC, they announced putting OpenAI and SpaceX stock on chain, allowing more people to hold it. This direction is actually a very, very real path to implementing something that will impact ordinary people. And it's not just Robinhood doing this. NYSE and NASDAQ are also doing it, and they're very actively putting stocks on chain. One benefit of being on chain is looking at it from a broader perspective. One is tokenizing already listed stocks and also stocks that haven't gone public yet. Traditional paths to wealth creation, ordinary people have two main ways to build wealth. One is real estate. The other is stocks, but now startups or the time companies stay in private markets is getting longer. Unlike before around 2000 years, when Google went public, quickly creating this wealth effect from Google. But now, a company like Stripe hasn't gone public in over a decade or has no IPO plans, doing extremely well financially. By the time it goes public, or when OpenAI goes public, it's already at a very high valuation. There's not much room to go higher. So tokenizing pre-IPO shares on the primary market lets ordinary people buy in too, giving ordinary people continued wealth building potential. In the US, if you want to invest in SpaceX or OpenAI, you have to be an accredited investor. Not sure about the exact number, it might be $1 million or more.
So I feel that's a bit unreasonable. This might be because of me, my thinking from spending time in Web3. I genuinely feel, especially for things directly related to consumers, my best shareholders are actually my customers. If you have an earlier opportunity to turn your customers into investor shareholders and let them share in your real capturing this wave of returns, that's actually a very exciting thing. That's also why early on for many startup projects, we wanted to tokenize them to solve this problem. I remember Uniswap at the time, and then as it became more competitive, if I can contribute data, everyone becomes a contributor. It turned into, I want your money, I want your token, so short-term contributor users come in, and then they don't retain. That's also a big problem. But the economic model here, I think, is still something society can keep exploring. So looking ahead, more efficiency in anything I want to buy, I can buy in early, should be solved in a more digital way, especially in the AI agent era. Where the user is, where the money is, that's where the assets are. Can you get a shot of this? Great figure. Okay, let's get back to it. The Web3 scene at Stanford, how is it?
Stanford probably has about 3 schools that study Web3 or crypto from different angles or teaching it. One is the business school from a financial and economic perspective, researching and teaching from a payments angle. The law school focuses more on regulation and law, dealing with future regulatory questions, how to regulate this thing, how to understand this thing.
Suddenly you realize someone here might be starting up, while the classmate over there might be their future regulator.
Very likely. Stanford Law School is globally at the forefront of tech regulation and tech law. I think the best thing about Stanford is every school ranks in the global top 5 or top 3. Across all fields, the most talented people, and everyone wants to start a company. Another very important point is Stanford has so many visiting lecturers. The course content involves learning from VCs, and even some assignments are to pitch your ideas to them. They tell you why your idea isn't mature, what's wrong with it, they guide you, and at the same time, you build relationships with these VCs.
So basically studying here plants a startup mindset in you from early on. Getting a regular job for life seems hard after this when studying at Stanford.
When studying at Stanford, most people are building companies. So inevitably, at graduation, some people end up at big tech companies. But during the time studying at Stanford, many people are starting companies or working on startup ideas because the culture is there and you have access to resources. I think it's very uniquely advantaged.
For the best people here to start companies, what are the success rates like?
At least the first hurdle, the success rate is much higher.
Students whose startups fail, could it be because they're too smart?
I think a lot of it is because they're young without life experience. Many students, they might not even have work experience. Before starting a company, they've never even been managed before. So the failure rate is actually not low. But I think the reason Stanford is such a great startup hub, so excellent, is the students here from 0 to 1 and 0 to 2 is relatively easy. They have enough money and opportunities to do these startup internships. For example, first time they might learn a lot. Then the second time, their success rate would be much higher. And investors here love this. First startup gave it everything, then continuing to try again. It's a very good signal to investors. So I could create a fund specifically investing in failed Stanford startups, mainly looking at what happened their first time, why they failed and what they learned. Because there's another point about the employment landscape. It was definitely very bright before. Now AI adds some uncertainty. It's still quite good. In this situation, investors see it as such strong background after starting a company, because before starting a company, you might be attracted by the glamour and all that, but then find out entrepreneurship isn't like that. Very hard and exhausting, and the overall return isn't great. Knowing all this, you still choose to start a company rather than going to Google, Meta, or other big companies with pretty good high salaries. And at the same time, that kind of job has less uncertainty.
Many people choose an uncertain life and want to try.
So many Stanford people, their reason for starting a company, if they fail, life won't be too bad and they can go back to Stanford. Many people return to campus to seek a second startup opportunity, to find new startup partners.
In the end, it's still on the same starting line.
But the first mover advantage is very obvious. They can easily get top-tier investor money from Silicon Valley. And from that comes brand credibility.
With a stronger background, having these big names, you can say something casually and get customers at very low cost.
It's like a door opener. It lets you try, but if you're not doing well, you're still not doing well. But at least you get a chance to try.
There's actually another theory which says once you raise enough from very top tier resources, you can't just let the company die. I have a friend who raised money from Lei Jun at the time. Alibaba also invested, giving a lot of money, and one day he said, I really don't want to do this anymore. They said, please don't. If you drop this, it would be embarrassing. How much money do you need? Let us figure something out. Put in a little more.
This kind of thing does happen, but maybe the reason it's rare is you need to raise a very, very large amount at a very large scale. I think another very important point is startups face a lack of resources. The most important thing is your access, being able to gain trust in this area. For example, in B2B business, you need to connect with the decision makers of these B2B clients, connecting with relevant brands or good mentors who can make introductions.
Stanford's AI startup culture is incredibly strong.
Many people are starting companies in AI-related fields.
But AI startups are tough and also hard to exit from an investment perspective. Money has flooded into the big projects. NVIDIA has already absorbed enough, and below that, the large language model AI has also absorbed a lot. Like, OpenAI seems to still be in the process of a new fundraising round. This is a bit of insider information, but what we can see, AI that serves a specific niche to the extreme might be able to carve out a space. Being at Stanford, you can also hear the most cutting-edge AI information and content. And what are the challenges? Does AI still have opportunities?
I think AI still has opportunities, but it has passed the era of the spray and pray type of opportunities and is more about precision, as you said, vertical niches. There's still a lot that AI can empower, but as I mentioned, the characteristic of these areas, one great thing about Stanford is access. For example, the oil extraction industry without experience in that industry. You simply can't build anything. Any startup's biggest problem might be, first, it's very hard to get started. And once started, Google and OpenAI either acquire you, or that's actually a decent exit. Or they just do the same thing, or they do the same direction as you. Many AI things right now might rely on having more GPUs, more talent, more data. You can never beat Google and OpenAI, whether in data, talent, or GPUs. That's a fairly significant challenge. So that's why I say this era of spray and pray has passed. I think this is called the second mover advantage. The second mover means they can wait for you to go first, but your moat isn't deep enough. The biggest problem is many AI use cases are linear. Both the good and bad parts, many people can understand it. Crypto's advantage is it's non-linear. Many things can't be understood. You need to be in crypto for many years or have a certain foundational understanding. Mainly, it's non-linear or non-consensus. AI's biggest characteristic or problem is its consensus nature. Consensus benefits players with massive resources. Apart from deeply specialized verticals, there's also the more technical side. There's also an interesting characteristic. AI and crypto actually share something in common. They both remove middlemen. In our human society, the entire business model doesn't go directly from the beneficiary to the person providing the service, but is filled with many, many middlemen. A very simple example is writing code. The person actually doing the work or having ideas is the person who understands the industry, but because they can't code, they need many middlemen added. Those middlemen are no longer needed, but once machines can do it, people with ideas can directly turn them into results. It's very powerful in that it empowers many people. The entire industry or economy going forward may become more atomized, empowering people who truly understand and have ideas.
Even if you're not a Stanford student, but with today's AI development or the overall development of the times, as long as you have a very unique idea for the specific problem you want to solve, just go try it, because the cost of starting up has been compressed by AI.
Why now are so many companies able to achieve very large scale? One reason is AI has reduced overall development costs and labor costs. Another big reason is your entire distribution channel is already very developed. When your overall distribution efficiency greatly increases, costs drop dramatically. So I think going forward as an individual with ideas, you might not be able to just stay in one industry and one field doing the same thing. You may need to embrace change and be more atomized. You don't necessarily need funding. It might be more lifestyle oriented. If your idea is novel enough, you can make quite a bit of money because many of these tools are already there. You don't need to understand technology, and you don't need to raise a lot of money to hire a tech team.
In this world, there are very few times when everyone or all commerce can participate. Take the internet, that counts as one. Crypto is also one. It's just about how to best make use of it. Through regulation, through traditional enterprises, we're really only in the first step of exploration. Haven't truly entered yet.
One more point I think is that in the AI era, why AI is useful is because it's not limited by the human brain. And what AI does may increasingly depart from humans. It may ultimately still be for humans. But in between, there might be tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of various agents, intelligent entities interacting. Everything is designed by humans. People design these technical scenarios and tools which become for these machines or these agents a very uncomfortable point. Crypto and things like that, people using it might find it laborious. But for machines, using a credit card is very laborious because credit cards are designed for humans, leading to the inability to handle hundreds of thousands of transactions per second with a credit card. But with crypto you can, because it's very naturally.
Actually, blockchain Bitcoin was originally designed for the future, for overall digital design as a token like this. In daily life, you don't feel it. Why would you need such a financial system designed for this level of digitization? When AI arrived at that moment, you felt Bitcoin was truly ahead of its time. I feel he was a time traveler. This future has arrived. The completely digital era's financial system is here. It's made me even more convinced of the overall direction of Web3. It's just the market is a bit bearish now. It can take time and wait patiently. Finally, I want to say, if your startup project, if you have an idea, if you think you want Stanford incubation or investment for anything related, please contact our KunPeng. Self-made entrepreneur, please contact GIE. Bye-bye.